Louis, Fendi, Prada, basic. I wear that shit so I don't even bother. Gucci, Louis, Fendi, Prada, you...
The community suffers from the same overall issues consistently.
Forgive me, but I've been feeling a bit nostalgic lately. Maybe not in full force, but in glimpses that appear, like flashbacks in the midst of the day. A few years back, I spent a good bit of my time scrolling, involving myself in the art and the drama of a community that now feels like a slight faint memory. One that still spews small, dramatic situations from time to time, but there was a time where internet animators and people with super colorful personas alike were in cahoots and in combat with people in their early 20s who donned character sprites, but not like the ones you're seeing now, I promise, and tried to rant at people and tell them how to draw, where on the animator side it was very much reminiscent of your dancing animals, people expressing an array of colors and finding a great way to draw with others, and hop on trends that someone else makes. So one person would draw a dance with a song and a bunch of other people would go, oh, that's cool, I want to do that. So this community was built off of a thing called animation memes. You had the animators and the artists, you had the older commentators who liked to indulge themselves in the community, and then you had just straight up art critics, like detectives with pen. This community reigned for a while, being a pretty immense spear from around 2016 to 2020, and while people still make animation memes today, the area of the community is, for the most part, a bit dead now. At least the fact where you had a shit ton of commentators and detectives involving themselves in the community as a whole. But now, people are making videos of this community from an outsider's perspective, speaking about how crazy it was, speaking about how disgusting, deranged, and depraved parts of this community were, or such and such. Well, honestly, a lot of figures in this community, commentators and animators alike, were pretty horrible people. But then again, growing up entirely on the internet, garnering hundreds of thousands of fans as a child will probably fuck you up. And on the other hand, being someone who's 21 yelling at kids about how to draw their winged animals, you're probably already fucked up. Some people go back and talk about this community like a true crime podcast. As a 14-year-old, I looked back on this community and I went, wow, this is so interesting. I care about this a lot. This is really cool. I want to do this stuff. And I indulged in it. I really indulged in it. In fact, the DeviantArt / animation meme community is the entire reason you're even seeing me right now.
Art. Who doesn't love it? Seeing the beauty, majesty, and just overall creativity of people's artistic talent.
Look at me, I'm a 14-year-old who's criticizing people's drawings, even though I don't know how to fucking draw. I was inspired by an array of creators, now most of which are pretty terrible people and openly called out for their behavior. The side I was inspired by was the commentators involved in the community, not the animators nor super critics. Pretty much almost every single person I was inspired by and started being argumentative because of, fortunately closed off their entire internet chapters in rather unfashionable lights. But I wish to speak about the bigger cases of, I guess the subcategories in which lied in this community. One more time, we had the artists, the commentators, who would talk about drama, and then we had the critics. So in the animation community, one of the biggest things is that artists would sometimes live in permanent fear that they would get featured, or the spotlight would land for the big hammer of justice from the old-ass critics. Forgive me, not old-ass critics, just older critics, I think. You had the category of people that would make compilations and videos giving very specific art critique to a bunch of artists in the community, or generally just putting them on blast.
By far is this. Animation is hard. Animation is hard.
It's so hard to make. Oh. Make your own fucking backgrounds, you douchebag.
So you had animation meme review, art shit you hate, and then compilations of people's shit that was labeled as edgy, where other people with a possibly dark, mysterious voice would talk over it, which in another realm, having these grown dudes commentate and make full videos out of little artists expressing their vents and their feelings, translated behind the monitor would kind of be the equivalent to 20-year-old dude watching a 13-year-old draw a really sad stick man in a sketchbook, coming right behind the 13-year-old, pointing at the piece of paper and going, yeah, this shit is ass.
You draw like 3 pictures maximum and edit them a bit.
And the fun part is, a majority of the time, the grown-ass people who were doing this couldn't even draw. They don't and they didn't, and they made it their premonition to base entire series off calling things edgy and putting them into compilations and reviews, where often it wasn't even criticism criticism, they were just being dickheads. Often, a lot of these compilations were vocal, full videos, but there was also a lot of the time where hate was so welcomed that people would just make, quote, cringe compilations, where they downloaded like a bunch of videos, put them together, and uploaded it like, look, here's a full cringe compilation of a bunch of little animations I think are straight buns. Now, since a lot of critics were in big roles where they made fun of and trashed an immense amount of kids for their edgy or cringy art, and it was consumed by hundreds of thousands of people, garnering millions of views, it kind of played a big role in cringe culture. Like the culture of, you're cringe, so stop posting these things. You know, the cringe culture where people were outcasted and made fun of for expressing themselves or being into things. The whole era of the internet where it was cool to be a dickhead and being true to yourself or a subtle nerd was like cringe. I mean, give it that a big premise of these videos were disguised as reviews or criticism, but that's not really what it was. It was just making fun of people, and that was like super cool for a while. There was also a situation in the community that if I fondly remember that I found kind of hilarious. It had to do with tweening. Now, if you weren't aware, tweening is an animation technique in which the illusion of movement is created by generating frames between two key points or keyframes. So rather than drawing each frame hand by hand, the frames are generated between keyframes, or the drawings are moved manually, frame by frame. This creates a seamless transition between the two keyframes. So instead of hand drawing every single thing, you use a tool to assist you. Now, there was a big issue in the animation meme community where people thought if you used the tweening technique, you were a fraud because you didn't hand draw every single frame of the character. You didn't actually make their head bop up and down. You used a lasso tool and moved the head around. So since you didn't individually draw all 308 frames, you suck. It got so bad that people had to put like parentheses tweening in their video titles so you'd know it was that form of animation.
Tweening is always bad. 99.9 repeating % of the time. It's not bad because it's tweening. It's just bad because most people...
The craziest part about this is that this dude didn't even draw, man. Like, he didn't even draw. Take it from the words of a 16-year-old. Well, I think tweening counts as animation. It still requires effort, and in the end, it still looks exactly the same. Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Also, what you expect to happen in the next year probably isn't going to. Past that, I credit a lot of the downfall of big creators truly to just being outwardly problematic. It's almost impressive how a community of people who wanted to commentate in front of speed paints or animate an animal dude doing a jig ended up being so, talkative. Because along with ranters ending up being pretty horrible people and the push uphill of cringe culture, it seems like having a character spin around in a circle and having their wings flap was a lot more serious than meets the eye. But I think there was a lot of good and circles of creativity that were interwoven in this community from the art side to animations alike. I know so many people who met each other and perhaps even got inspired by the gist of it. Many people could have witnessed horrors, but I don't think having a destined community to spread your creations along inner circles is a bad thing, and if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here either. Anyways, I'm gonna leave that all behind me. I was just nostalgic today, but we won't be nostalgic anymore. Thank you to my patrons, Yosarian, Mimi Diggs Quiz, and Masha Alabek. I'll see you next time. Love.
Macha Palatis e Bali before I Macha Palatis e Bali before I